Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Hooman Radfar on the line, and he's founder and CEO over at Collective. Hooman, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about how AI is supercharging opportunities for solopreneurs. So excited to get into that and just into what's going on in AI from your vantage point as well, Human. But before we do that, we'll start this episode like we start them all with what we like to call our Mission Matters Minute. So, Human, at Mission Matters, our aim and our goal is to amplify stories for entrepreneurs, for executives, for experts. That's what we do. Human, what mission matters to you?
So for me, what consumes me and gives me a lot of effort is trying to free solopreneurs to do what they love. And we do that in a very simple way. Let them focus on what they care about, their passion, not their paperwork. Everything from formation to filing, Collective wants to be that partner, that trusted back office for you with transparent prices, easy to use services. So that's what gets me up in the morning.
Mm. That's awesome. I like that. What was that again? Your passion, not your paperwork.
That's right. That's
I'm a
right.
sucker
Insane
for
to pull
some
off.
alliteration when that's
I know,
brilliant.
man. I know. I know. It works. It works, right?
We're definitely going to get into collective and this mission of what you're doing for solopreneurs. But before we do that, I mean, I see the word, founder here, the term founder. Like, were you always an entrepreneur? Where did that start for you?
Yeah, I joke around with investors and friends. I've never held an honest job since graduating. So I finished grad school, got my master's, and started my first company. So I've been an operator. Then I started investing. Worked with a good friend of mine to help be a founding partner at a venture firm, and then I went back to operating here at Collective. So
Mm.
yeah, I think I'm as founder as they come.
Yeah. And so what about when you were younger? Was it like if we were on the playground together, like would you have been selling basketball cards? Would I've been having the baseball card market? Like what would have worked like? Were you younger in stuff like this too?
It's interesting. I think I always had a proclivity towards taking ideas and making them into reality. So I was a
Mm.
trained studio artist and drew a lot. I've been playing guitar
Mm.
since I was young. I've been coding since I was 12. I didn't really have the experience, the context. My parents were immigrants on how to translate that creativity and interest in multiple subjects into something that was like producing income, if you
Mm.
will. And what really catalyzed and I think pushed me into the startup game was when I was an undergrad, the dot-com, movement was happening, eerily
Mm.
similar to where we are now in some ways. We could talk about
Yeah.
that if you want. And that really solidified it for me because I saw people who looked like me, who were into different disciplines, pulling it together,
Mm.
harnessing that creativity to build, a company, which is the ultimate form of expression. You're building something that can build other things, even when
Yeah.
you're gone, right? And to me, that I just got hooked.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me and to see like an output, right? And to create opportunity for others. And as you progress through
Oh
life,
yeah.
get older, these other things, and you're like, wow, we made something. This is opportunity. Like other people get to benefit from this. It's amazing.
It's the best part, honestly. It really is. I think everyone evolves and everyone has their own character and goals,
Mm.
but I think as I've grown older in particular, a lot of the reward for me is, hey, how does our platform not only benefit our members, who
Mhm.
that's what we call our customers, but my team, right? How
Mhm.
does it advance what matters to them?
Yeah.
And whether it be they want to build certain skill sets, they want to put a kid through college, and that's really a blessing, honestly, to have a position where you get to help people realize their ambitions.
Yeah. So, speaking of collective, was that like was there like an aha moment, or was it like a progression to launching that company? Obviously, with your skill set, lots of different things you can do. Like, why this idea? Like, why now?
Yeah, collective, I would say it was more organic
Hmm.
for me. And
Yeah.
and collective, like the name is I would say the output of multiple minds. So I'm
Mhm.
not the sole founder, and to be frank, even the founders aren't the sole folks that have shaped this. Our team has
Mm.
played an outsized role in it, right? We lit the spark, and we tried to steward it, but that flame was built by many. And for me personally, I had a couple insights. I was at a firm called Expa, and it was the co-founder of Uber, and we were helping companies at the early stage. but ultimately my customer was the founder, right?
Mm.
And I really enjoyed working with and for founders, and I found that to be satisfying because I knew that ICP, I knew that
Mm.
person, that profile,
Yeah.
and but I also realized that I missed the scale of my previous opportunity. My company, first when we
Mm.
had this, we'd serve 15 million customers and help them
Mhm.
drive increased traffic and engagement to their
You missed
website.
the numbers, yeah?
2 billion, and I missed the big side of it. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
missed that.
yeah.
And so for me, there was this opportunity I saw, like, is there an opportunity for me to be a founder again, serving
Mm.
founders at scale? And that's where Collective really, really, started coming together because I was looking, my mind, my heart, everything was open to
Yeah.
this kind of universe. And then I started thinking of this like more abstract concept of, there needs to be some sort of like operating system for SMBs where it's super easy, like really small, not like the big ones,
Mm.
but like my parents and so on and so forth. And I met my co-founder and he had the same passion, came from a different angle. Um, and then I had another, he brought in another co-founder, but we all became friends. We all kind of came together and we kind of
Mhm.
launched into what is now Collective alongside our great team. But that
Yeah.
kind of is what got the spark. But the more I spend time with these people,
Mhm.
everyone, I think there's this, maybe I'm wrong, but there's this like misconception around solopreneurs. A lot of people think about it as gig workers in the valley, for
Mm.
example, or part
Yeah.
time or side hustle. No, it's everybody. There's
Mm.
28.5 million solopreneurs in the U.S. and you just don't think of them as business owners. And I started having that realization with my own family. My
Mm.
dad ran his own business. My mom ran her own business. They were called psychiatrists. I think
Yeah.
they had to form their company, do their books, payroll, taxes, all the things that I have to do as a venture back company. In fact,
Mhm.
it's worse for them because, they don't have a big staff.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Mhm.
so that really got me excited because I could see those people. And I love that. I
Mhm.
love that part about business when you want those people to win.
Yeah. And looking at as you got further and further, was there when did you know? And I'll tell you why I asked this question because sometimes, people are watching this and they're thinking about like, are they in the right position? Are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Like, when did you know that Collective, you're like, okay, this is an idea that we started, we lit the fuse or the spark as you mentioned, and I can see myself like really making a difference with this and really sticking with this. Like this is where I'm gonna spend my time. Like, how did you know that?
I think, I always tell people when they're starting companies or they're embarking opportunities to think. I run, for hobby, and I used to run track, and so I would think of things in
Mhm.
laps. And so, I commit to companies in kind of a year. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm passionate about this, and I'm
Mhm.
excited enough about this that I'm going to run for a year. And
Mm.
if I hit these types of outcomes and learn these types of things, I'm going to renew. And of course,
Mm.
1 year, two, and two,
Man,
and
that's
three.
that's so powerful. Continue. I love that. Go ahead.
But it's the same way, I think a lot of people, I'm often asked, by people who are potential founders, how do you start a company? It's so
Mhm.
intimidating, like, do you need to do like you incorporate first, you this, do that? And I say, no, let me give you the formula. Anyone can start a company. You open up a folder on your Mac or God forbid Windows machine. You open up some sort of doc and you say, hey, listen, I'm going to write down everything about whatever I'm excited about. There's something consuming you. I'm
Mm.
save it and I close it. You started a company. The question is not, can you
Mm.
start a company? The question is, do you have the discipline and the fortitude and the process to take
Mm.
that idea and continue to work on it every day? And if you
Yeah.
can, what ends up happening as you work on this thing is, you're gonna have setbacks, but ultimately, I have things that just give me juice. And I'm like, oh my God.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
to your point, like I can tell you right now, I could work on this for 10 years.
Yeah.
But that's been an earned knowledge. I didn't just know that day one. I knew
Mm.
that I really thought this was something. I liked my co-founders. There's something big here. Let's put a year behind it. At least
Mm.
academically, that's the framework I do. Because then
Yeah.
it's intimidating to say you're going to do something for 10, 20 years, right? And you just
Yeah.
will never do it. Just like it's
Yeah.
intimidating to start a business.
Yeah. I think that's a great transition, by the way. So let's get into Collective and maybe go into the nuts and bolts a little bit here on how
Sure.
how it's making, solopreneurs' lives easier.
Yeah. So, when we look at it, and I'm going to try to compress it because I get excited, but look,
Get excited,
today
man. I like it. Come on.
I'm in. I'm in. So I view it as this: solopreneurs, they spend 1 out of 4 hours on finance and administration, right? And so
Mm.
by design, even if you have like 2, 3 employees, you're not going to go hire a finance department. That's just not
Mhm.
what you're going to do, right? And so when you're trying to construct this finance function, right, as I mentioned, whether it's compliance and entity formation, payroll, bookkeeping, tax, and there's more to it, to be candid. We don't handle
Yeah.
everything, and but you don't get a finance department. And so what are your
Mhm.
alternatives? Alternative one, I'm going to string together with spit and chicken wire a bunch of tools, whether it
Mhm.
be Gusto and QuickBooks, and pick your favorites. And then maybe I got a buddy down the street or a friend, and I'll do some consulting work on accounting and tax, and I'll try to make sure I'm not doing anything illegal, and I'm running this kind of right. And if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's the bottom. I'm hand to mouth. I'm just trying. That's
Yeah.
how your finance department is. The second alternative, and this is one that people take when they're really committed to a business and they
Mm.
just know it's going to succeed. So, as an example, my parents are doctors, they're psychiatrists. They're like, I'm running a practice. I'm
Mm.
making enough money that I can't afford to do this. I need someone else. I cannot go and do these tools and drive the outcome. I will have someone else do it because it's not worth
Yeah.
my time.
Yeah.
50,000 small practice accounting firms drive that, right?
Mm.
They're their own the outcomes market, right? Again, doing your bookkeeping, doing your taxes, doing
Mhm.
whatever it is, right? And it's opaque and it's not transparent pricing, it's not online, all these things.
Yeah.
For us, the simple thing to take away is why can't you have both? Why can't you
Mm.
have the convenience, and efficiency of software, right?
Mhm.
Single application, single conversation, all your things in one place, easy to manage, just like the big companies have it, right?
Mm.
At the cost of software. And so that's what we do. And so again, we focus today very much on a couple areas, but these are to us the key areas that many solopreneurs need.
Mm.
So formation, bookkeeping, payroll, tax. We do individual tax. So we're adding more business insurance,
Mhm.
401k, and health insurance. But our hope is that the next new business or a business that's scaling says, you know what?
Mm.
I don't need to handle this. Collective is my finance department. They got it on lock, and
Yeah.
it's cheap and it's fast. And I want to spend that 1 hour making money. By the way, and we'll talk about this with AI, you
Mhm.
better be doing that because I
Yeah.
have businesses that are skyrocketing. And so, you want to spend that 25% of the time on your top line, not managing your bottom line.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, go into that. It's perfect transition. So AI, how where does AI fit in this ecosystem?
So, I kind of think, and we can have, as dark or as light a conversation here. I'm an optimist, so let's start
Mm.
with that. But there are going to be some real challenges. Like, let's start with that. Um, what AI has been doing is acting as an accelerant. You're seeing the number of new non-employer payroll businesses spikes, which is a huge report on that. So that
Mhm.
means the number of solo person increasing. At the
Mhm.
same time, the revenue for solopreneurs increasing because they're able to use AI to be more productive.
Yeah.
Okay, so they can decide to use that by improving their profitability. Right, I'm gonna have the same number of customers, just do it easier. Or it could say, you know what, I'll be lower profit per customer, but I can handle more customers. And so
Mhm.
you're going to see the effective outcome is like there's this whole race, like the billion-dollar business of one. Like who's going
Yeah.
to build the first, like Instagram was 13 people or something.
Mhm.
And someone going to do it with one person, and that's the academic race. But it's almost like, who cares? Like if people are creating $50 million business of three, it's pretty damn
Yeah.
good, right?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that's what I'm excited about. And I
Yeah.
think that's not in 10 years. That's like happening now. And
Mhm.
so that's one thing on the AI side. And then the second bit is, those same forces are also enabling us, a collective, to do what we do better for our customers, enable new capabilities that we never thought were possible, but also honor that promise of saying, hey, I'm going to give you the same
Mm.
outcomes that a bookkeeper is going to do and a tax person is going to do, but you want that cost and the convenience of software. You want available
Mhm.
24/7. You want real-time answers. Okay, that's where technology can play an outsized role. And that's where AI is really helping
Mm.
us turbocharge our offering.
Mm. And how do you feel this affects the workforce as a whole? Like, what are you seeing, especially from the solopreneur side of things? And to use a different word, you're not talking about necessarily. I don't think you want to use the word gig worker, but otherwise, like all
I
the
mean,
different
there
ways
are
we work.
solopreneurs. I
Yeah,
think they're not. I think people don't. I mean, there's such a small portion of it. I mean, you're
for
you're
sure,
talking
for
about,
sure.
you know, I
But for
God
the
knows.
whole, but for the workforce, from your vantage point, what
Yeah,
are you seeing,
yeah.
like with AI? Yeah.
You know, it's going to be complicated. I think
Yeah.
there's going to it's a I call it a force of creative destruction.
Mhm.
In the near term, I think people, there's going to be certain white collar jobs that are really, really going to be subject to automation faster.
Yeah.
And even I would say, I don't know what you would call it, the blue collar job. Like, take, for example, let's take one that's not, I don't think it's controversial. It's happening. It's just a rate of change issue.
Sure.
Driving. Okay. Uber, the kind of
Oh
1.0
yeah.
versions of
Every time I take a
marketplaces.
Waymo, I think about that. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah. And I was an early investor in Uber, friends with some of the folks that started and
Hmm.
ran it. I'm a big fan of it. but like Waymo, Tesla, like there's a bunch of companies that are coming in, and everyone in California, in particular people in San Francisco who have been riding these things are like, okay, it's kind of like the first time you got high speed internet, you're like, this whole dial-up thing is kind of like done.
Yeah.
It's just like a matter of time. And
Yeah.
so that's where we are with driving. And that's a lot of people who drive professionally. I mean, order of magnitude, it's like 2 million people. And you have to
Mhm.
remember, it's not just driving cars, it's trucks that are going to be impacted too. There's like
Yep.
millions of owner operator truckers. Again, these are people that so what's the rate of change of that?
Right.
And so I do think, and we could talk a lot about this, but I do think there's going to be some level as this accelerates of there's certain jobs that I think are going to be, there'll be less need for them, if
Mhm.
not no need for them. But then there's
Mhm.
going to be new jobs, and there's certain jobs that are going to have even more opportunities. So I'll give you a counter example that's not as negative.
Mhm.
Radiology. And I give
Mhm.
this a lot. I think people don't apply an economic lens to AI. They often say, okay, like Microsoft has put out studies that, okay, they can scan an X-ray,
Yeah.
99% efficiency. Okay. So then the leap that people take is, well, we're not going to need radiologists. Okay. Well, first point, radiologist is a job that was created by technology, the X-ray. There was no radiologists 200 years ago, right? Um,
Good point. Good point on that one.
no,
Yeah.
but that's most jobs. So
That's yeah,
I would
yeah,
argue
yeah, that's
a
true.
lot of these jobs that require technology. And so,
Yeah.
okay, we can look. So you can say, okay, but I'm driving the costs down of a neurologist. That's one way to look at it. But like, let me ask you a question. And we
Mhm.
gave the example. You were, I don't know if you're, I don't want to guess your age, but did you use dial-up? I imagine you did at some point. You experienced
Yeah.
dial-up. Okay, great. Do you use the internet more or less now that it's cheaper?
More. It's just faster, works better, of course.
Of course, right?
Mhm.
So you used to have to pay per minute on AOL and
Yeah.
Prodigy and all those others. Now you don't even know what it costs. If I
Mhm.
asked you, what does your internet cost per minute? You would laugh. I don't know. I have
Yeah.
unlimited on blah, right? I don't know,
Yeah.
but we're using it more. Same thing's going to happen in some of these other professions. You drive the
Mhm.
cost down of a scanning. Guess what? I don't want to die. I'm pretty sure you don't want to die. And
Yeah.
so if the costs for scans are lower, like let's say we could do preventive scans for cancer, we could do preventive
Mm.
scans for other things. The reason people wait till the last minute for cancer scans is
Mhm.
expensive. But if those costs are down, look,
Mhm.
90 some percent of cancer can be prevented if you hit it early. So
Mm.
we can say, well, I mean, that the demand for life is infinite. And so you're
Mm.
not going to have less doctors, you're more
Yeah.
because people are going to be scanning, they're going to move from reactive to proactive. So these are the creative destruction forces. Like some things truly they're going to change. Just like look in the agricultural revolution or
Mhm.
the industrial revolution, 85%, 90% of the population was farming. Nobody's
Yeah.
farming now. It's like 5%. Okay, it's inverted. Um, Ironically, if you go read the publications at the time, they were really, really sour and talking about people dehumanized in factories. I mean, it was really dismal. People were
Mhm.
dying and getting hurt, and they were just saying, "This is awful. We're killing humanity by pushing automation." Right now,
Mhm.
their kids, or if you will,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
are
the
saying,
lineage.
"Hey, I."
Mhm.
Their lineage is like, "You're killing my job." Well, your great great grandparents didn't want that job. And so
Yeah.
I think there's this force of creative destruction. I am optimistic in the long run, but I think we need to be conscious that these changes have ramifications to real people. So if you're
Mhm.
55, 60 years old and you're in a driving position and if that's subject to destruction in 5 years, we need to think about that and we need to start
Mm.
policy around that. We need to start saying, what do we do to train these people? What do we do to transform? If you're 25 and you're driving, you're
Mhm.
probably okay because there's
Mm.
a lot of movement. You maybe don't have kids, you don't have a house. Like, but if you know what I mean? So I think we
Yeah,
have to just be
yeah.
smart about this and say, look, AI isn't good. AI isn't bad, just like technology isn't good and bad in the near term.
Mhm.
Um, let's work on it segment by segment. And that's a tough answer. No one wants that
Yeah,
answer, but
yeah.
that's the answer.
Awesome. Human, final question here. Talking to the solopreneurs out there. It's, well, I'll timestamp this for us. We're recording this on June 2nd, 2026. You've made a career. You're working with solopreneurs through Collective. What would be your words of wisdom to them right now when it comes to just the overall entrepreneurial landscape as it relates to AI and what some things they should be thinking about?
So I guess I'll talk to people who are thinking about entering that space or
Mhm.
earlier in their journey, because I think those are people that often could benefit the most from, an encouraging word. I would say this is happening in venture, but I think the same adage that applies to venture applies to people who are solopreneurs. There's never been a better time to start a business, right? The cost of entering business is very low. whether
Mhm.
it's like I'm going to be a creator and like what are your actual carrying costs? What are your costs of goods sold? Very low. I'm going to be a consultant. There's so many ways that you can leverage your skill set, and there's online marketplaces that you can drive business, right? So if I'm a consultant, I can go to Upwork, I can go to all these other places, drive revenue, and then I have all these tools, whether it be collective or others, to run my business. Like, this is a moment in time which is unique, and you couple that with AI, and if you're willing to really spend the time, you can now not just think, I'm going to build like a business that is, there's no problem with building a lifestyle
Yeah.
business like 300, 400, whatever the amount number is. Maybe I can build a business that's generating 10, 20, $30 million myself or with a partner, right? Maybe this can help me do something outside. Like, it used to be, do I want a lifestyle business or a venture business?
Mm.
I'm telling you that the trends are converging, that you don't need to choose. And so it's a better time to be small than ever before. And I think the tools are there, but have the tenacity, have the grit, and go forward with your dreams, and know that it's a slog, but it's really about putting one foot in front of the other. There are two things that will cause you to fail. Two things, and there's only two: run out of money and you quit. Don't do those two things, and you can keep going.
Love it. Good way to end it. Don't run out of money. Don't quit. How do people follow up? How do they learn more? How do they connect with you and your team at Collective?
My parents were very sharp innovators, and they made my name with SEO in mind. So my name is Hooman Radfar. If you Google me, you can even just Google Hooman. I'm very easy, but on social, I'm usually at Hooman Radfar. I'm at collective.com. And so I'm just first name at collective.com if you have any questions, but spend most of my time on social, LinkedIn these days, versus other networks if you're so inclined.
Fantastic. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so that you can just click on the links and head right on over and connect with Hooman and his team. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. You heard me correct. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way in your journey as well. So hit that subscribe or follow button. And Hooman, thanks again for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, Adam. It was really fun.